Revealed, the sinister tale of a diver discovered haunted inside a shark's terrifying stomach. The tale began as an unsettling whisper among the beachgoers, growing more grotesque with each telling. A diver found, still alive, trapped inside the belly of a monstrous shark. Closure became legend, and legend, horror. The horrifying reality of that discovery clawed at the minds of all who dared to listen. Lisa sat in her shabby living room, the sound of the news creeping through the static, and for a moment, the weight of her world slipped away. The air was thick with the scent of saltwater and failing hope as she prepared for another long night at the hospital, blissfully unaware of the chilling events that loomed on her horizon. Even as her heart raced thinking about the demands awaiting her at the night shift, shadows danced just outside the window, whispering old legends about their coastal town. She glanced outside into the darkening sky, her breath hitching as she remembered children's stories about the mangroves. What lay hidden beneath those waters unnerved her. Then, as evening enveloped her small home, her phone blared, shattering the tranquility like glass. "Mom! You have to come home." Jake's voice echoed with fear, panic thick in every syllable. "I hear noises coming from the backyard." Terrifying noises. A knot twisted in Lisa's stomach, a wave of dread washing over her. "What do you mean noises, Jake?" She gasped, images of lurking predators flashing through her mind. The mangroves were notorious, and she pictured their dark tendrils gripping whatever secrets lay within. Home wasn't a sanctuary anymore, it was a battleground, and she could feel darkness seeping into every corner. Racing through the streets in her aging sedan, she gripped the wheel tightly, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Each click of the turn signal felt louder than the last. She feared the shadows trailing her car and the muffled whispers of the past choking her courage. The familiar route twisted ominously in her mind, the vacant houses looming like sentinels, mocking her determination. When she arrived, her heart dropped into an abyss. The house stood silent, her relief swiftly shattered as she dashed into the backyard, calling Jake's name, her voice straining against the growing darkness. Panic surged through her like ice. "Jake!" The silence echoed back. Frantically, she called the police, her desperation met with indifference. "We'll send someone out, but it's probably just a loose cat or something." The officer's dismissive tone cut deeper than any blade. She felt invisible, a working mother wading through despair, but just when all seemed lost, Tom, her reclusive neighbor, emerged from the shadows, his demeanor calm yet unsettling. "I know this area well. I can help you search," he said, his eyes scanning the mangroves, hinting at a knowledge she didn't yet trust. As they ventured into the thick, dark mangroves together, something was off. A heavy air pressed against them like an underwater presence, sending chills down her spine. "You ever heard the stories about this place?" Tom's voice held weight, echoing her unshakable fears. Each tree seemed to loom larger, the shadows deepening, hidden truths flaring just beyond the corners of their minds. Before they could unravel the truth, a low, guttural growl resonated from the ocean's depths, prickling her skin with terror. "What was that?" Lisa breathed, her eyes wide, heart racing. Shadows danced between the roots as she fought to maintain what little composure remained. "Stay close," Tom whispered, tension climbing like a serpent coiling tighter around their throats. An uneasy feeling gnawed at her spine, and she couldn't shake the thought that something far worse lurked beneath the waves than any shark. Then it happened, an explosion of water against the night's calm, a razor-sharp fin cutting through the surface, and Lisa's world spun into chaos. The legend was alive, and she could feel the abyss watching as hope slipped, drowning in the darkness. She had to find Jake. She had to uncover the truth before it was too late. But what haunting secrets would the night reveal? The mangroves loomed like jagged teeth against the night sky. Lisa's heart thundered in her chest, each beat punctuated by the unnatural silence surrounding them. She exchanged a quick glance with Tom, whose typically impassive face was now marred by tension. They took a cautious step deeper into the dense thickets, where the air felt thicker, pressing down on them like an invisible hand. "Jake!" She called again, her voice faltering in the darkness. The call dissipated into the suffocating humidity, swallowed by the weight of the night. A moment passed, then came a whisper, a soft rustling coming from the brush ahead. Fear twisted in her gut as she instinctively shoved her arm out, halting Tom's advance. Together, they stood frozen, the flickering shadows morphing into shapes that teased the periphery of sight. "What if it's just in the trees?" Tom asked quietly. But the tremor in his voice told her he was not convinced. He glanced towards the sound, his eyes dark pools of uncertainty. "Mom," a voice broke through the silence, thin and trembling. It was Jake, his distressed tone like ice on her skin, echoing through the dimness. "Jake! Where are you?" She strained to pinpoint the direction. The growl beneath the surface had returned, rumbling low and ominous, making her stomach churn. "Over here, in the water." Jake's voice was now clearer but laced with panic. Fear ignited her instincts, and she bolted toward the sound. Tom hesitated, then followed close behind. "Don't go too far." Tom called after her, but she could barely hear him over the rush of her heart. She reached the water's edge, her feet sinking into the mud. The moonlight barely illuminated the surface, but there, flickering just below, she caught a glimpse of movement. Shadows shifted beneath the waves. Was that a fin? Desperation clawed at her throat. "Jake!" Another splashing sound broke through, closer this time. It sounded frantic. "Mom!" Jake cried, sounding terrified and impossibly close. "Help!" Lisa plunged her hands into the cold water, the murky depths sucking at her fingers. "Hold on. I'm coming." She kicked off her shoes, her heart rate quickening as she felt something brush against her calf. She recoiled, but the need to save her son overpowered her fear. She steeled herself and dove in, the water wrapped around her, chilling her to the bone. Images flared in her mind, stories from her childhood, warnings about the dark waters, the things left unexplored beneath the surface. She swam deeper, her hands sweeping through the sludge and weeds, then, like the claw of desperation, something grasped her ankle. Lisa's breath caught in her throat as she twisted around, panic ripping through her as she stared into the black abyss. "Mom! Look out!" Jake's voice shrieked from above, filled with raw terror that sent her blood racing. She attempted to pull free, but whatever held her was fierce, unyielding. Dark shapes swirled around her, writhing like sinuous tendrils closing in. As she broke the surface, gasping for air, the silhouette of a massive fin cut through the water just beyond her reach, sending a wave of dread crashing over her. "Tom! What do we do?" She thrashed in the cool night, desperately looking for a way to drag Jake to safety. "Get to shore now!" Tom shouted from the bank, but Lisa could barely hear over the pounding in her ears. An echo of a growl rumbled under the water, reverberating through her bones as she dared a glance down into the depths again. And there it was. A monstrous shape shifting beneath the surface, eyes like hollow voids watching her, hungry. With renewed strength, she swam back toward the shore, pulling her son along as the fin began to circle. She could feel the water grow heavier and the current pulling her back. But she would not let go. Just when she thought she was going to reach him, a powerful surge erupted from below, stealing the last vestiges of her strength and yanking her under. Darkness enveloped her once more. "Mom!" Jake shrieked, tearing at the roots of the trees on the bank, but she had disappeared from view. And in that moment, Lisa found herself staring into the abyss. Would she be able to escape? Or would she, too, become part of the sinister legend that plagued their town? In the shadows, uncertainty beckoned what was lurking beneath the surface, waiting for her very next move. The darkness swallowed her, a suffocating embrace that felt as if it would never release its grip. Gasping for air, Lisa fought against the pull of the water, her vision blurring as panic surged through her veins. She couldn't think, only claw at the darkness that surrounded her. Bubbles escaped her lips, rising in frantic bursts toward the ever-distant surface. In the throes of chaos, fighting for survival, she remembered Jake. The echo of his voice pierced through her mind, "Mom. Help." It was a beacon in her storm of fear. He was still out there, still in danger. Lisa kicked her legs violently, pushing herself against the pressure of the water, praying to reach her son. Just as she felt her strength waning, a spark of hope ignited. She lunged upward, desperation fueling her movements as fragments of moonlight peeked through the murky surface above, but as soon as she broke through, another wave crashed over her. She gasped sharply, clouds of cold water filling her lungs as the tendrils of the abyss drifted like shadows around her. Panic twisted her muscles into knots. She had to find him, had to get back. "Jake!" She screamed, her voice lost to the night. Her heart raced, terror clawing at her throat. She glanced around, scanning the surface for the flicker of his figure. The water churned, a menacing force eager to pull her back down, and then she saw it, a shadow moving deliberately, circling closer. The fin shot through the water like a dagger, its intent clear. The thing in the depths was not just a legend, it was real, and it was hungry. Lisa's mind erupted in horror at the thought of Jake caught in its jaws. "Tom!" she cried, but her voice barely made it past her lips, swallowed by the wave of fear rising within her. She plunged her head back under the water, heart racing as she scanned for her son. Her instincts screamed to swim toward the bank. But before she could make a decision, something struck her hard from below, dragging her into an icy grip. It took her breath away. The pain radiated through her leg as she felt the unforgiving pull of the creature. "Let go!" she screamed, flailing wildly as it tightened, sharp teeth grazing her skin. Just then, she heard Jake again, his cries piercing the night. "Mom! No! Jake!" She summoned every ounce of strength to twist and kick, her foot connecting with something solid. The grip loosened, just enough. Lisa shot toward the surface, heart pounding in her ears as she broke free again, flailing to the edge of the bank. She could see Tom silhouetted against the dark trees, frantically motioning her to come closer. "Get to me." But the water darkened again, rippling ominously. She hesitated. Was it too late? Was it calling her back? With another defiant thrust, Lisa surged toward the shore, the terrifying sounds of splashing echoing as it followed behind. Just as she reached for the roots, something powerful shot from the depths, snagging her wrist. "Mom! Jake!" Her body screamed for freedom, but the water-esque grip was strong, dragging her back into its depths once more. In that instant, a surge of rage ignited within her. "I want to let you take me!" she screamed, her fingers flailing around until they found something firm, a branch. She clutched it for dear life, using it to maneuver her body toward the shore as the beast screamed a low growl behind her. She could see Jake now, peering into the darkness with wide eyes filled with tears, but he couldn't help her. With the final effort of desperation, Lisa heaved herself forward, narrowly avoiding the creature's jaws as it snapped just inches away from her heel. But the shore loomed ahead, and with one final stroke, she propelled herself from the water-esque grasp. Tumbling onto the bank, she gasped for air, feeling the wet earth against her skin. "Mom! Are you okay?" Jake rushed to her side, hands trembling. "I'm fine, baby, I'm fine." But a chill gripped her as she looked up and saw the water still swirling ominously. Something was lurking just beneath the surface, waiting. The night felt heavier now, each breath steeped in dread. They weren't safe yet. What was that thing? Jake asked, eyes wide with fear. "I don't know, sweetheart," she whispered, heart pounding, as the silence grew deep around them. They held each other tightly, realizing just then that the terror of the mangroves was far from over. And deep below, in the dark and murky waters, the creature waited, watching. "Mom, what do we do now?" Jake's voice trembled, the question hanging in the air like a blade poised to fall. "Just stay here, until I figure it out," she murmured, knowing deep down, the real fight was only beginning. What else might it want from them? In the shadows, the water rippled again, and Lisa felt the unmistakable rumble of something moving. The air was thick with tension, as if the trees themselves held their breath. Lisa could still feel the horrible pulse of the water in her ears, the memory of the creature's gnashing teeth haunting her. She shivered despite the warm night air and pulled Jake closer. "Mom," he whispered, his voice fragile, like the hint of a breeze before a storm. "What if it comes back?" She swallowed hard, trying to push down the lump of fear that threatened to choke her. "It won't. We just need to stay quiet. Stay together." Her own words felt weak, like a flimsy barrier against the darkness creeping closer. The water hissed at the edges of the bank, a soft slapping noise that sent jolts of dread through her. She glanced over, peering into the shadows that masked whatever lay beneath. Did it know they were here? Did it want something more than just revenge? "Look!" Jake pointed, eyes wide. Lisa turned her gaze in the direction he indicated. There, a flash of silver danced in the water's depths. Reflexively, she tightened her grip on Jake, but this time it was not panic she felt, it was a cold determination. "We can't stay here, we need to find a way to get back to the car." With every step she took away from the water, it beckoned her back, cool fingers coiling around her ankles, whispering sinister promises. "Mom," Jake's voice was small, trembling as he glanced back towards the river. What if it follows us?" She scanned the tree-line, trying to shove away the thought of that dark creature silently trailing them. "We will be fine. Let us just keep moving." Every word felt like a pact she had to keep, even if she didn't believe it. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the shadows thickened around them, and the air still tasted of salt and dread. Twisting roots snared their feet, reaching out like dark fingers trying to pull them back. It was an eerie labyrinth, and each rustle in the foliage sent shivers down her spine. "Mom," Jake broke the silence, his voice now a worried whisper. "What if there are more of them?" "More what?" she asked, forcing herself to remain calm. "Monsters. Like the one in the water." Tears brimming in his eyes sparkled under the feeble moonlight, reflecting his terror. Lisa knelt and hugged him tightly, resting her cheek on top of his head. "I promise I won't let anything happen to you," she murmured, her heart battling with the truth. She hoped that mere words could shield them from the horrors that lurked. Suddenly, a loud crashing sound echoed nearby. They froze. It came again, a heavy thud, like something massive was moving through the underbrush. "Mom!" Jake squeaked, pulling away from her grip, eyes darting. "What is that?" A growl, deep and guttural, rumbled from the shadows. It was unlike anything she had ever heard, raw, primal, like the very sound of terror itself. The hairs on her arms stood on end, and she felt the instinct to run, but where? "Quick!" she hissed, grabbing Jake's hand, and they began to move. "We need to find Look." He pointed again, near a large root system protruding from the earth. Through a clearing, two eerie pairs of glowing eyes stared back at them. Whatever they belonged to was crouched low, watching them with a predatory gaze. Lisa could feel Jake vibrating with fear beside her. "What is that?" he whispered, breathless. "I don't know," she said, her voice barely audible, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The creature shifted, revealing more of its silhouette. It was not just an animal, it was twisted, wrong, a grotesque parody of life. "Run!" she shouted, the command echoing painfully in the night. They bolted, hearts pounding as they tore through the dense foliage, stumbling over roots and slick mud. The growls pursued them, as relentless as their own fear. What they didn't know was that their attempt to escape was only just beginning. The creature emerged from the shadows, gliding through the underbrush, relentless and hungry. "Mom!" Jake's voice cracked, terror washing over him. "It sees us." But before Lisa could respond, she caught sight of something ahead, a flicker of warning lights in the distance. "Over there!" she screamed, pushing herself forward, knowing that salvation lay just beyond the tree line. Or was it another trap? As they neared the edge of the woods, A realization struck Lisa with a frigid grip. What if they rushed into the open only to face something worse? "Keep running!" she bellowed, as the growls grew louder behind them, reminding her of the suffocating depths they had narrowly escaped. What could possibly wait for them on the other side? The lights flickered like distant stars, their glow both a promise and a threat as Lisa pulled Jake forward. Every instinct screamed for her to stop, to gauge their safety before crossing that threshold, but the growls behind them suffocated any hesitation. "Mom, it's getting closer," Jake gasped, his breath quickening. She felt the tremor in his voice, a raw plea wrapped in desperation, and it cracked her heart. "I know. Just a little further." They barreled towards the lights, her mind racing through a haphazard wish list of what lay ahead: safety, warmth, people to help them. But somewhere deep in her gut, a gnawing doubt twisted. What if the source of the lights was the very thing they were running from? As they splashed out of the underbrush, the moonlight spilled over an empty dirt path, glossy and wet. She stumbled, catching herself just in time as she pulled Jake along. "Where are the people?" he panted, searching the darkness beyond the dim circle of light. "Where is everyone?" "Maybe they're just busy," she answered, though the words hung heavy. The chill in the air wrapped around them like a thick fog, cutting through the adrenaline that fueled their flight. The path snaked away into shadowy oblivion on either side, but there, just ahead, stood a dilapidated building, its windows broken and walls sagging, a gas station long since abandoned. The flickering neon sign buzzed ominously, casting ghostly light that further warped the scene into something surreal. "Mom, what if something's in there?" Jake whispered, clinging tighter to her hand. "It's better than being out here," she replied, though her skin prickled against the cold seeping in from the depths of the woods. They edged toward the entrance, the wooden door creaking softly as Lisa pushed it ajar with a hesitant shove. It swung inward, revealing darkness inside, thick, suffocating. As they stepped over the threshold, each creak of the floorboards felt like an echo of their heartbeats. The emptiness inside felt alive, shadows danced in the corners, mocking her every breath. "Mom," Jake whimpered again, glancing behind. The growls had quieted, leaving only the haunting silence to fill the space. "Stay close," Lisa urged, scanning the room as if to pounce on any lurking danger. A rusted shelf lined with dust-covered cans caught her eye, the labels faded and peeling. A strange stench wafted through the air, musty and thick, turning her stomach. Suddenly, a sound prickled at her senses: soft footsteps, too deliberate to be the wind. She froze, listening. Jake sensed it too, and he pressed into her, eyes wide with terror. "Did you hear that?" he squeaked. Before she could answer, the lights outside flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. Panic set in, and she instinctively pulled Jake closer, her heart racing. "Mom, what's happening?" His voice quivered, eyes darting around the room for something solid to cling to. "Shush," she hissed, straining to hear. The footsteps grew louder and closer, then a low chittering sound crawled over the air like a sinister whisper. "What is that?" Jake trembled, burying his face in her side. "I don't know," Lisa breathed, desperation clawing at her insides as swirling dread filled her chest. Suddenly, the door swung shut with a resounding bang, plunging them into complete silence. The only sound was the unmistakable thump of something heavy moving just outside. She knew then they were no longer alone. The darkness seemed to pulse, and for a moment, it felt like the air itself was watching them. "Mom!" Jake cried out, panicked. "What do we do?" "I don't know," she snapped, fear stark in her voice. "Just stay behind me." As the darkness deepened, confusion settled, but then a flash, something darted by the broken window, and she caught a fleeting glimpse of movement, a silhouette that didn't belong. Lisa's heart thudded violently. They had entered a trap, one filled with shadows that whispered secrets of terror. Were they already surrounded? Then came the voice, a low, guttural chuckle from nearby, echoing in the silence, wrapping around them like smoke. "Welcome it," hissed Lisa's blood ran cold. But before she could react, another sound broke through the chilling ambience, the familiar, grating noise of something scraping against metal, and it was coming from inside the building. What could be waiting for them in the dark? Mom, Jake whispered, the weight of their fate now heavy between them. And then it all spiraled into chaos. The darkness swirled around them, thick and unyielding. Lisa's heart raced like a wild animal trapped in a cage. The low chuckle echoed in her ears, tightening the knot in her stomach. She moved quickly to the perimeter of the room, her fingertips brushing along the cool, rough wall, desperately trying to anchor herself. "Mom, I don't like this." Jake's voice was barely a whisper, edged with terror. "Me neither," she murmured, forcing herself to breathe. They needed a plan, some flicker of hope. As Lisa strained her ears against the silence, the scraping sound grew louder, a shuffling that felt too close for comfort. "Keep your eyes open, Jake. If you see anything, just run, okay?" "I don't want to run. I want to go home. Home isn't safe right now." The neon flicker from outside lit up the room in erratic bursts, casting ominous shadows that clashed against the walls. Each flash revealed glimpses of broken machinery, abandoned soda bottles, and layers of grime, all remnants of a long-forgotten life. A scent of decay tainted the air, and panic clawed at her throat. "What do we do?" Jake pressed against her, his small body trembling. As if on cue, the scraping intensified, a sickening rhythm echoing through the dark. Lisa's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp as a shadow peeled away from the wall. It twisted, morphing into an outline of something impossibly large crouching just beyond the dim light. "Mom! There's something." Jake's voice was a sharp prick in the icy atmosphere, raising every hair on her body. "I see it," she whispered, panic swelling in her chest as she squinted into the darkness. The shadow shifted, revealing a massive shape, perhaps a figure or a grotesque form, the source of that malevolent chuckle. Gathering her courage, she took a step forward. "Who's there?" Her voice trembled, but she forced a measure of defiance into it. The response came as a slow, rattling breath. "Don't be afraid, children." The voice curled around them, sickeningly sweet, dripping with malice. The figure stepped fully into the flashing light, a grotesque amalgamation of shadow and deep-set eyes that glinted with a hunger Lisa couldn't comprehend. "What do you want with us?" she managed, throat dry. "Just a bite." The creature's grin stretched wider, revealing teeth jagged and yellow, glistening in the erratic glow. In that moment, instinct took over. Lisa grabbed Jake's hand tightly. They had to escape. "Run!" she shouted, yanking him toward the back of the gas station, where the shadows grew denser. As they sprinted down the hallway, the ominous voice echoed behind them. "You can't hide. You will join me." Jake stumbled, and Lisa quickly scooped him up, holding him against her as they barreled forward. Panic flooded every fiber of her being, each heartbeat pounding in her ears. The heavy footsteps of the creature followed them, relentless. They burst into the back room, a storage area choked with dust, suffocating silence, and forgotten memories. Old tires, empty crates, and strange tools cluttered the space. But at the far end, a small window gaped open. Light broke through like a beacon of hope. "Over there, Jake. We can get out." She rushed toward the window, her fingers grasping its rough edges. The grating of clawed feet grew nearer, and a primal urge surged within her to hurry. She hoisted Jake up, pushing him through the opening first. "Go! Go!" With a final shove, he was through. She scrambled, wrestling with the frame as she heard the voice flare behind her, growing furious. "You can't escape." As she pulled herself through, she was met with the cold night air, exhilarating and terrifying. But before she could draw a breath, the world around her twisted and shifted. Shadows loomed and darkness took shape, threatening to drag them back into the unknown. "Jake! Where are you?" Her voice carried into the night, swallowed by the oppressive silence. The moon hung high above, a lone witness to their desperate plight, but danger lurked everywhere. They weren't safe yet. She could feel it, the dark pulse of something just beyond the edge of sanity, waiting for them to make one wrong move. Just as she turned, a low growl accompanied by Jake's terrified scream shattered the silence. "Mom! Help!" Heart racing, Lisa whipped around. But the shadows closed in, a tide of darkness ready to swallow her whole. What lurked in the shadows, and would it claim them both? In that moment of dread, she knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Panic surged through Lisa as she heard Jake's scream, puncturing the silence of the night. The growl that followed rumbled deep within the shadows, a haunting promise that no child should ever have to endure. "Jake!" She spun in circles, desperate, her heart drumming like a war cry against her ribs. They had made it out. Why couldn't they stay free? The crunch of gravel beneath her feet echoed in the night, a woeful reminder of the isolation that pressed upon them. She strained her eyes against the void, searching for any sign of her son. Shadows groped around her, fingers of darkness reaching out, taunting her with their embrace. "Jake! Answer me!" Her voice trembled, each word weighed down by fear. A rustle came from her left. Lisa turned sharply. The darkness shifted, and for a moment she caught a glimpse of something, a small figure darting between jagged outlines of what might have been trees or remnants of the gas station. "Mom!" Jake's voice drifted again, sounding smaller, more distant this time. "Help me!" Without thinking, Lisa surged forward. Every instinct told her to run, to escape, but she couldn't leave him. She pushed through the pain of fear clawing at her throat. "Jake, I'm coming." The air felt colder, a biting chill wrapping around her like a vice. Every step deeper into the shadows pounded her heart harder, like a frantic drum signaling doom. "Stay close. I can't see you," she shouted, swallowing the knot of terror in her throat. From behind, the low chuckle returned, closer now, echoing off the unseen walls of despair. "Such a good mother, but you cannot save him." Lisa gritted her teeth, fighting the incessant dread creeping into her mind. "Shut up. I will find my son." A sudden, sharp yelp broke through the night. Lisa's blood ran cold. "No. Not again." She bolted toward the sound, but the growl returned, closer, reverberating through the ground. This time, a scream wasn't enough. She skidded to a halt, taking a deep breath, and then stomped her feet, defying the malevolence that surrounded her. Suddenly, a burst of light broke across the darkness. A flashlight beam flashed from the treetops, illuminating the clearing. Shadows recoiled as if burnt by the sudden brightness. Lisa froze. "Jake!" She called again, heart pounding as she squinted into the glow. Movement attracted her attention, and she spotted him, her boy, trembling and just beyond the reach of the light. "Mom! Help!" Instinct kicked in, she ran toward him, every muscle tense, her feet pounding against the ground. "I'm right here." The dark chuckling morphed into a low growl, barely contained rage spilling from the depths. The figure lingered just out of sight, looming, waiting for the moment of weakness. "Jake!" Lisa's breath came in short gasps as she reached for her son. He wobbled but didn't fall back. "Mom, it's behind you." His eyes widened as they flicked past her, pure terror reflecting within them. As she turned, the light pulsed feebly against the large, monstrous form that had been closing in. The creature's jagged teeth glinted, a sharp smile devoid of warmth. Lisa's stomach churned at the sight, every instinct screaming to run, yet her feet felt frozen. "Stay close to me," she whispered fiercely, but this time it wasn't just courage she had to find, it was a limit. The creature lunged suddenly with a terrifying speed, snapping its maw inches from her face as Lisa stumbled back, dragging Jake with her. They barely dodged its grasp but now found their path blocked. Panic ignited within her anew, a surge of adrenaline flushing through her veins. With nowhere to go, Lisa gripped Jake's hand tighter. "We can't let it take you. We must." A deafening roar erupted from the creature, sending a wave of cold fear crashing over her. The night had turned wild, shadows and darkness closed in, and the creature extended its claws. "Mom! What do we do?" Lisa's mind raced. There had to be some way to escape this nightmare. But as she looked into her son's eyes, she felt the grip of desperation. The darkness was shuffling, ready to pounce, and for the first time, she felt the weight of something more sinister. "What have we unleashed?" she thought desperately, glancing around, searching for a flicker of hope in the abyss closing in. As the shadows warped, a chilling realization dawned on her: escape wasn't just an option, it was becoming a haunting obligation. And just then, Lisa saw a shape emerging from the corner, a glimmer of metal catching the light. Could it be their salvation or merely another snare? The next moment could be everything, or nothing. The metallic object glinted under the flickering flashlight, its surface slick and reflective. Lisa's chest tightened as she hesitated, glancing toward her son. Jake's eyes were wide with terror, coaxed into believing this nightmarish darkness could somehow end. Rushing forward, Lisa ignored the sharp edges of fear that cut deep into her resolve. "Stay close," she said, her voice firm, even as doubt crept in. The creature, relentless, growled again, like thunder rolling from the abyss. In another world, that metal object could have signified safety, a tool, a weapon, anything that could fend off the lurking horror. Now, it felt like a cruel trick. Lisa's fingers brushed against the handle of a rusted pipe. It wasn't much, but it was certainty against the uncertainty that surrounded them. The ground trembled as the creature writhed in preparation to strike. Lisa turned, brandishing the pipe in front of her. "Get ready," she shouted, signaling Jake to stand by her side. He mimicked her stance, but the way his hands shook revealed their frailty. "Mom, I'm scared," he whimpered, his face pale under the sparse light. "I know, sweetheart. But we have to be brave," Lisa replied, forcing the shaky whisper past her lips. If she wavered now, he would crumble. As shadows flickered, the creature lunged again. This time, Lisa was ready. With a primal scream, she swung the pipe. It connected with the beast's snout, a dull, fleeting victory that sent ripples of shock coursing through her arm. The creature's growl morphed into a shriek of rage as it reeled back, its monstrous eyes narrowing into slits of burning hatred. "Follow me," Lisa yelled, grabbing Jake's arm and sprinting away from the clearing. They raced toward deeper darkness, the crunch of their footfalls drowned by the creature's furious roars echoing behind them. Somehow, adrenaline fueled every frenzied step, but the shadows felt hungry, clawing at their heels. "We can't just run," Jake shouted, tugging away from her grip. "We have to find a way out." "Jake, this way." Lisa pointed, veering off the path as panic ignited within him. She didn't know what lay ahead, but they couldn't afford to stand still. The creature thrashed in fury behind them, the darkness crackling with malice at every growing moment. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted, gravel giving way to something spongy. Lisa staggered, her heart racing. "What is happening?" she gasped as the air thickened, pressing down on her like a heavy weight. "Mom! Look!" Jake shouted, his voice trembling as he pointed toward a gaping hole veiled by vines and darkness. Just beside it, the land sloped steeply downward like a natural slide. "Is that?" Lisa squinted. It could be a way out or a trap, but they had no choice. The beast was here. With a deep breath, she pulled Jake toward the opening. As they reached the edge, another monstrous roar reverberated behind them, sending a jolt of dread surging up her spine. It was coming. "Jump!" she yelled, grabbing Jake tightly. Together, they leaped into the abyss, bracing for whatever lay below. They landed hard on the damp earth, the impact knocking the breath from them. Gasping, Lisa looked around, finding themselves deep within an underground cave. Ominous shadows, flickering torches adorning the walls. "Where are we?" Jake whispered, his voice echoing in the chilling stillness. Lisa stood, heart pounding, scanning the dark expanse. There was no way back, only forward. But forward meant plunging deeper into uncertainty, a world built of nightmares. A sigh of breath echoed around them, different from the growls above. It was heavier, drenched in malevolent intelligence. And then she saw the flickering lanterns, the glimmering eyes that reflected the low light. "We are not alone." Lisa's breath hitched, fear pooling like ice in her veins. Echoes of laughter rippled through the cave, disembodied voices whispering secrets of despair. "What have we gotten into?" she thought, each heartbeat hammering like a clock winding down. Before she could answer, the shadows morphed again, coalescing into shapes. Shapes that should not be there. And from the depths, a guttural growl rumbled, shaking the very stones around them. At that moment, Lisa knew this was far more than a dark creature. It was a gateway to horrors unseen. What had they awoken? The whispers grew louder, weaving through the cave, pulling them further into the nightmare. "Mom!" Jake cried out, eyes wide, filled with unspoken terror. As the shadows closed in, Lisa felt a chill creeping up her spine, the true horror of their situation dawning on her. Was this the end, or just the beginning? As terror gripped them, a moment of clarity pierced through. To survive, they would need to confront the darkness, their only hope becoming a desperate fight against what lay beyond the lurking whispers. A shiver ran through Lisa as the oppressive darkness pressed in. The whispers were curling around her like living tendrils, licking at her sanity. "Do you hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to hear it, Mom." Jake whimpered, clinging to her arm like a lifeline. "Stay close." Lisa gripped the pipe tightly, scanning their surroundings. The shadows seemed to pulse, shifting like they had a will of their own. Those lanterns flickered ominously, as if they were eyes watching her every move. And then silence. The whispers vanished, leaving behind an eerie stillness that hung heavy in the air. All she could hear was the echo of their own breaths, quick and shallow. But it was worse than the noise. It was the calm before the storm. "Mom, can we just go back?" Jake's voice wavered, filled with desperation. "Listen." Lisa shut her eyes tight. She strained to hear anything, but the silence was deafening. Her heart thudded savagely in her chest, like a drum heralding impending doom. And just when she thought they were safe, a low grunt reverberated throughout the caverns, sending tremors through the earth beneath them. Lisa's eyes widened, horror mixing with determination. No, without warning, the darkness erupted. A figure lunged from the shadows, a hulking mass that filled the cave. For a moment, Lisa stood frozen, the pipe quivering in her hands. The creature had the form of a beast, but its movements were fluid, surreal. The thing's eyes glinted with malevolence, and its twisted mouth opened wider than any creature should, revealing rows of jagged teeth. Lisa felt bile rise in her throat as the stench hit her, a nauseating mix of decay and sulfur. "Run!" she screamed, pulling Jake behind her as she sprinted, desperation fueling her speed. The beast roared, a chilling sound that tore through the cave like thunder, and the echoes seemed to laugh at their dread. They darted deeper into the cavern, the walls slick with moisture, forcing them to navigate carefully. Every instinct screamed to flee, but there was nowhere to hide. Shadows danced along the walls, grotesque and alive, taunting her. "Where do we go?" Jake shouted, terror etched into his features. "Forward!" Lisa yelled back, though she could feel her resolve cracking. The guttural growls grew louder behind them, the creature gaining on them. Then she saw it, a faint light flickering further into the cavern. Hope surged within her. "There!" She pointed, leading Jake toward it. But as they drew closer, the light morphed into a twisted figure, a humanoid shape, draped in shadows, grinning at them with a disturbing familiarity. It was the face of someone she recognized but couldn't place a brother, a friend? The memory slipped away like grains of sand. What is that? Jake stammered, backing up against the wall, pure fright etched across his face. The figure reached out, its hand elongated and grotesque. "Join us," it whispered, the voice like nails scraping against metal, both inviting and terrifying. "Jake, don't!" Lisa shouted, but her own heart raced at the sight. A part of her was drawn to it, that familiar allure of comfort in chaos. But before she could react, the beast roared behind them, snapping her back to reality. "We can't stop." She grabbed Jake's hand again, pulling him to the side as they stumbled past the apparition. The shadows were closing in, weaving tighter around them. Something inside the darkness flickered to life, and Lisa caught the glint of teeth, sharper than she'd imagined. "Keep running," she urged as the echoes of laughter filled the air again, cruel and mocking. Just as they rounded a bend, Lisa felt the ground tremble beneath her feet. A rift opened up, a gaping chasm leading deeper into the earth. There was nowhere to turn. In the last moment of clarity, as the creature's breath washed over them, hot and rancid, she shoved Jake forward. "Jump!" With a final, desperate leap, they flew into the darkness, not knowing what awaited them below. And then they fell. As they plunged into the abyss, a chilling thought raced through Lisa's mind. What if this darkness was not just an escape, but an invitation? The shadows promised revelations. Or perhaps new horrors. With their descent unbroken, the eerie laughter swirled around them, a promise of nightmares yet to come. The world erupted around them as they hit the soft ground. Lisa gasped, pulling Jake with her, their limbs tangled and bodies shaking from the adrenaline. They landed in a damp, narrow passage that seemed to twist and turn endlessly. Shadows dripped from the walls, and an unsettling silence enveloped them. "Mom?" Jake whimpered, his voice small and fragile. "Where are we?" "Shh." Lisa hushed him, desperately trying to calm the storm raging inside her. "We need to keep moving." Rising to her feet, she quickly scanned their surroundings. The walls were uneven, carved by time, oozing with moisture. Stale air hung thick around them, weighing heavy in her lungs, carrying a sinister hint of decay. Something primal told her they were not alone. She felt it watching, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. Just then, the faint sound of water trickling echoed nearby, breaking the silence. Lisa's heart quickened. "This way," she urged, leading Jake deeper into the darkness. Each step felt like a leap of faith, as if they were straying further into a nightmarish labyrinth. But then the whispers began again, faint at first but growing louder, curling around their minds like unseen vines. "Join us, stay with us," the voices taunted in hushed tones. They sounded so familiar, each echo piercing through the decorations of fear seeping into her heart. Memories of loved ones lost slipped through her mind, begging to be remembered. "Mom?" Jake's eyes were wide, glistening with tears. "Please. I don't want to listen." "Neither do I," she murmured, squeezing his hand for comfort, terrified at the idea of being drawn into that darkness. "Just focus on me. We have to find a way out." As they pressed further, the dim glimmer of light ahead beckoned. It flickered and danced, pulling them out of the abyss of shadows that clung to their heels. With each step, the overwhelming aroma of saltwater began to fill the air again. Lisa dared hope. It could be the exit. She exclaimed, her voice a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. They rushed toward the light until it burst forth, revealing an expansive chamber. A surreal underground lagoon stretched before them, reflecting the brilliance of phosphorescent algae. But the beauty was overshadowed by an ominous stillness. The water was too calm, too quiet. "Mom!" Jake squeaked as he approached the water's edge. "What's that?" The surface rippled slightly, distorting the reflection of their faces. Suddenly, from the depths below, a massive, dark shape began to rise. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. No! She pushed Jake back, gripping his arm, eyes locked onto the monstrous silhouette approaching from beneath. The creature flickered in and out of view, revealing jagged teeth and hollow eyes. A sense of dread gripped her heart, reminding her of the horror they had narrowly escaped. "We have to go," she shouted, yanking Jake away from the water. But the creature surged upward, dark water cascading around it, breathing in the air as it let out a primal roar that sent waves crashing against the shore. "Mom!" Jake cried, terror etching lines into his young face. "What do we do?" They stumbled backward, hearts pounding as the creature's enormous body breached the surface entirely, looming over them. Lisa could see the hunger in its eyes, the embodiment of nightmare staring them down. "Don't look," she commanded fiercely, positioning herself between Jake and the beast. "Just focus on me. We're getting out of here. Mom, let us swim," Jake urged, pulling her toward the water. "It might not follow us." "No." Her heart ached at the thought. It was a trap, the ultimate lure of the predator. "We have to find something, anything we can use." She turned, eyes scanning the edges of the lagoon, searching for a weapon, something to protect her son. But the beast began to move, its massive jaws opening wide, ready to snatch them away in one swift motion. Lisa shouted against the roar of panic rising within. She sprinted toward an outcropping of rock. "Come on, Jake!" she yelled, pushing her child forward. They scrambled across the uneven terrain, hearts racing. In unison, breathless with fear. Stumbling, returning glances toward the monstrous jaws gaping behind them, proving that time was running out. "Look there!" Lisa pointed. A rusted net lay crumpled against the rocks. "We can use that." "Mom, it might not work," Jake panted, glancing back nervously. "If it slows it down, it could buy us time," she urged. Fury ignited within her. She would not let this creature take her child. She lunged forward, ripping the net free just as the beast lunged, snapping at air. "Now, Jake!" she shouted, flinging the net toward the creature with all the strength she could muster. With surprising precision, the net caught around the beast's snout, momentarily halting it. The creature roared in rage, but it couldn't free itself. "Run!" Lisa screamed, grabbing Jake's hand. They sprinted through the cavern, hearts pounding with utter desperation. The echoes of their footsteps faded as they approached the exit, an archway framed by glimmering crystals. Freedom lay just beyond, but time was limited. They could hear the creature thrashing against the net, fury rippling through the air like a haunting promise. The net wouldn't hold for long. With one final burst of energy, they leaped through the archway, tumbling into the moonlight outside. The forest embraced them, its branches whispering secrets of survival, shadows retreating as dawn broke. They stumbled forward, breathless and shaking, the horrors of the night still lingering in their minds, but a flicker of hope ignited as they saw the road. "Mom!" Jake cried, pointing at the distant highway. "Look! People!" Lisa felt tears well in her eyes as she turned to her son. "We're safe now," she whispered, hope blooming in her chest, pushing aside the horrors of the night. As they stepped onto the road, their hearts began to sync with the rhythm of the morning. But as she glanced back toward the depths of the woods, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness was still watching, awaiting the moment they would return. And in that silence, she vowed never to let fear rule her again. Together, they would face whatever lingered in the shadows. They would emerge stronger, adrift on the shores of hope, guided by the light. "Remember, Jake," she said softly, "we're never alone. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who have to see what happens next. Your support means everything to us. fellow adventurers.